Hello everyone and welcome to the Medbay with Quantum Jump Medical. I'm Bob Harkin, and with me as always is Mike Spectre.
How's it going?
Good. So this is an exciting episode for us. It is the first ever interview that we're doing, and hopefully this is the first of many that we will be interviewing some of our members of Quantum Jump Medical. And this is especially exciting because we have another one of our Chief Executive Officers, Kennix, is joining us today.
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Doing well. So Kennix is the Chief Operating Officer, and tell us a little bit about kind of how you got into Star Citizen. What's your kind of gaming background? What kind of led you here?
So, I play a lot of MMOs and a lot of first-person shooters around the time that Star Citizen was entering Kickstarter. And a game like this never really was on my radar. I didn't really think I'd be interested in it. And then one day when I was stationed in Germany, I was walking back from staff duty, and this NCO was out smoking a cigarette, and I'm like, two's company, So I stood by him and popped open a cigarette, and I was like, all right, how's it going? He's like, dude, have you heard of a game called Star Citizen? And this was back in 2013. And I was like, no, what's it about? So he starts telling me, he's like, well, this guy, he made Freelancer and all this stuff. And I was like, well, I don't have any idea what that is. So he basically described to me a space simulator where you could go and fly a ship, do missions and whatever. And he said that this was a new upcoming project of his, and I should check it out. So I spent a bit of time off and on kind of looking into it. When I first got on the website, I was like, this looks kind of hokey. Because back then it was a dream. It was a rather shallowly funded project, and compared to other game studios and the cost of those. So I just kind of sat back and I was like, I'll check on it a little bit. So a few months go by, around April of the next year, and then I look into it and I was like, this isn't something that I've ever really played before. Reading up on kind of the ambitions of the project, and I said, well, I guess $60 ain't nothing. And then I looked on the website and I was like, well, I kind of want this ship, and it's $120. So my first ship I bought was a Hornet Ghost, and I popped in and I was like, oh, this will be fun. I'm going to have a lot of fun flying around and all this stuff. And lo and behold, I could just look at my ship in the hangar. And I was like, well, this is kind of a letdown. But I spent more time in the hangar, kind of looking around, and then I started seeing little details that kind of stood out to me. That's just like, I don't really play the games that go into this sort of depth with the mappings on the ships, and just kept reading into the website a little bit more, and I was like, oh, so eventually they're going to release a module where you can fly around. So I stuck around a bit, bought a Super Hornet, and just kind of letting my funding fly free. Then they released the Arena Commander module, where you went and sat in a little pod in your hangar, and then you could actually go around and you could fight AI, and I thought that was just something else. Fast forward basically 10 years later, and here I am, Legatus. I just lost myself in the project, and I figured as progress went on, I started seeing more and more things come out of the weeds with quality of life and gameplay elements and the community, and I just kind of never looked back. I really want this project to succeed, so I paid a bit of money and got to where I am today.
Through all that and playing the game and kind of finding those quality of life things, what actually led you to looking into the medical, how did you find Quantum Jump Medical? How did you join Spectre? You were here long before I was, so what got you in? What got you excited about Quantum Jump Medical?
So I originally started out in the corporation, which is a rather large, I think it's, the top three. And I met Pete Wayland. He was, he lives in Germany. I lived in Germany at the time, and we got to talking, and I got into their Intel and Security division, and, did that for a while. And it got to the point where the org was really big. And, once you get an org that big, it's almost impossible to keep the reins on every person. And to no fault of Pete or any other of the great leaders that I worked with and around, things just got kind of out of hand. And that wasn't what I was looking for when it came to a community that I wanted to be a part of. So I broke off and I started my own org called Kennix Universal Solutions, and my goal was to have a little bit of each ship, maybe a couple fighters, a couple haulers, a couple salvage, this and that, and then basically just rent my ships out in the verse. Whenever the game launched, I'd set up an org with contact information. If somebody wanted to borrow a prospector, they could borrow the prospector, and I would just charge them for time and fuel and any repairs needed. They kept 100% of the profits they got using my ship. And basically that was around 2015, 2016, and I got kind of burnt out on that idea because there wasn't really anything promising that I saw in the development that would enable me to really have fun with that type of org. So I dissolved it and basically just freelanced for a while, jumped around a couple different orgs, but they just all seemed to be, oh, hey, come join this org. You can do whatever you want. And I don't know, there's some about that doesn't really scream to me like it's an organized like corporation to join. It's just everybody kind of does what they want. And it's great, for the early years when there really is no set thing really to do. Like this game as a whole doesn't say, okay, you can do this as a profession and we have everything available for you to be successful in that profession. We're just not there yet, So I wanted to be in an org, was more focused. And around the time that medical gameplay was kind of getting into the heat of things, they were announcing new big things. And I was like, well, I think medical would be my kind of gig because you're not so much having to go out every day and mine ore to make money because that's like your org's focus, and you're not going out there and just killing things for fun or just flying tandem with other ships providing security all the time, and that can get kind of stale. Whereas I was looking into medical, and that's just such a dynamic style of gameplay, and because your day could be hopping from moon to moon, picking up people who tripped over their stairs on their ship and, broke their chest or something and they can't move. Something as plain as that to, there could be a full-on war, and just like, in any war, you need your medics, and being able to basically think on your toes and just kind of commit to a decision and, avoid gunfire while saving people. It's just such a diverse style of gameplay and profession that you could have. So I was looking through the org channel on subreddit, and I was like, okay, I don't really see any medical orgs around. And then I saw Quantum Jump, and it was pretty much the only one that I saw that was medical. And so it was kind of an easy choice. But I joined, and, I first got into the air security division. In fact, we created our air security division because it was a suggestion that I made to Spectre. Like, hey, we got a bunch of medics going around. Maybe they need some protection every now and then. So then we started the Valkyrie division, which was our pilots and combat pilots that would, drop people off if needed or provide wing security and whatnot. And then we just kind of grew from there. It became a lot more evident that Spectre needed help because our org was kind of blossoming at a quick rate. So I just spent more time helping out Spectre and basically helping him kind of flesh out the org and providing kind of a devil's advocate to all questions, just to make sure that we're looking at things from all different angles. That's kind of how I got to where I am now.
Yeah, I think that kind of leads into, like, as COO, what is your job? What is your role in the org? What do you kind of cover with Quantum Jump Medical?
Well, historically, I've been having to take a little bit more space from the org because I have a baby on the way and need to make sure that everything going on in my life is set in stone and, ready to welcome a new family member. And one thing that's great about this org is you play when you can, but real life is always first. So anyways, getting back to the Chief Operations Officer. Historically, I kind of helped plan a lot of the training missions, kind of giving Spectre advice on like what kind of different missions we should do, how should we train, what should we look for in terms of, people being qualified for certain roles. And I also earned the nickname Papa K because I acted like the org's daddy for a little while in the past where things would get kind of out of hand, so I had to shut things down, and we even had to unfortunately ban some people. But I mean, it's been a year, 2 years that we've had any drama, period. And it just kind of reflects on the leadership roles that we've created and the people that we put in them. And that's largely in part to Spectre and his ability to hold round tables to where the org isn't ran off of just one person and their decisions. It's a collective of the most trusted people within the org. And, Spectre will ask, hey, this is what I think. What do you guys think? We need to come to consensus. And my role back then was being part of that round table, typically being the one that says, well, look, what about if it was this way? Or that's not going to work for this reason. And my opinion may be right or wrong, but I'm the one that challenges the decisions and makes sure that all areas of the conversation are pursued. That way we can make the best decision possible. Even if I don't really care for the opinion that I'm putting forward, I at least need to put it forward. That way we can look at it from 1,000 meters down and then decide what the best option would be.
I know we've had some definitely good discussions in the past.
Yeah, historically, Kennix's primary job was to remind me to do certain things because I would forget. He'd be like, "Hey, did you do this?" I'm like, "Nope." I'll do it right now.
Yeah, there's been odd stretches of time where I'm a glorified secretary, but it's all for keeping the machine well oiled.
Definitely. There's a lot of quality of life things coming up in 323. What are you kind of excited about? What do you think is going to come, or what would you like to see come with the medical gameplay that we're all involved in and that we're all excited about? What do you kind of see on the horizon?
So one of my biggest anticipations is the Apollo. That's really going to diversify the gameplay a ton. So one thing about the Apollo is that it has basically little medical carts so you can deploy like drones. And there's even some artwork that I've seen where there's a person pushing one of these gurneys through the cave system. And that's kind of what we need at this point, because right now, if your only options are really to either A, drag them out, and we know how janky that is, or B, hopefully you have the right meds to pick them up and have them kind of be ambulatory on their own and come out to your ship to where you can fly them out. But I think that with the Apollo being a little mini clinic as it is, having a tier 1 bed, that's going to facilitate so much gameplay, especially when it comes to ground operations. Because even with training missions, right now you have to set up an 890 or a Carrack in order to respawn people that may die, to a gunshot to the head, or even wounds that you can't fix, the tier 1s. So you have to fly them back to the hospital to make sure that, they're hunky-dory, and then bring them all the way back to where you're doing your event. That's a real big waste of time. So with all these orgs that do these types of things, these scrimmages, or even Atmo Esports with their racing events and whatnot, things happen. Vehicles will hit a mysterious rock and they go flying, and then, now there's a whole issue. Having an Apollo, I think, is going to be the biggest game changer until we can get things in like the Endeavor in value add to a gameplay. So that's my biggest excitement for the future, is getting the Apollo in, having everything work on it correctly, being able to provide the best medical service with one ship in one location instead of needing like a Pisces or the Cutlass Red to be able to fix tier 3s, and then that's all you can do unless you want to transport them somewhere, or have a massive 890, or sometimes the Carrack is too large to fit in the spaces that you're operating in, just to be able to fix a tier 2 or to act as a revive station. It kind of limits you. So that's what my biggest anticipation is for the future.
I'm very excited about the Apollo as well, and I think we've kind of talked about it, like while we're helping at having a clinic there, we're right there with us, with something that for the future of the game would be very awesome. And yeah, I'm very excited about the Apollo as well. It's something that can't come soon enough, I think.
Exactly. But yeah, definitely being able to have everything right there.
Looking to the future, what would you like to see, or where would you like QJM to go? What would you like for the future of QJM, I guess?
Well, really, our foundation as we have it today is a very well thought out and a very functional organization. We have our logistics team, which provides us funding and supplies for the future, when we do base building and when we can manufacture medical supplies. We have kind of our security specialists that do provide security for our operations, can provide wing security for our logistics teams. And we also have our core medical group, which is the bread and butter of this org. And I would just like to see us grow in activity and in numbers. And then as the game gets fleshed out more with more systems to visit, then I'd like to see us have a presence in all those systems kind of regularly, and to be able to have a robust online presence to be able to facilitate kind of whatever anybody needs. But that is definitely pending on the future releases and the patches, and being able to kind of have the amount of people needed that we could use to spread across different systems, and then possibly provide our new bases that we're talking about, maybe setting up some base building in the different areas to kind of feature our clinics, and to be able to provide kind of a safe haven for those who are injured, or even if they need to stop by and grab some food and water, to be able just to to be quantum jump medical everywhere it's needed. And that's where I'd like to see us eventually get. Now, that's not necessarily the long-term future, because who really knows what's going to happen when, but at least for the short term, once base building gets in, I think that'll be the next greatest leap that we could kind of get our hands on, to be able to provide kind of home bases for people that they can heal themselves, they can, get food and water, and just kind of a place that everybody throughout the verse knows, like, hey, I need help. This is where I go. And that's where I'd like to see this org, kind of go to, is that our name is synonymous with help, whatever that is. So we're definitely heading in that direction, waiting on some, game systems to be put in place. But we're rip-roaring and ready to go to get these things implemented. And I'd like to see us grow from there and to really see us succeed. And there's going to be some ups and downs on the way, but we'll figure it out. We're going to make it work. And in the future, I think quantum jump's going to be a lot more powerful than what we are now due to game limitations. And once we're able to kind of show that power, that will be kind of our biggest banner to wave and say, look, here we are. Just come if you need help. So I'm kind of excited for the future to see how that all progresses. And, we can only grow from there. Every time this game hits a benchmark, we now create our own new benchmarks. And we look to the future to see what's planned. And then we round table and we find out what our next big thing is. So once base building gets going, once new systems are put in place, then we're going to find a new challenge to strive for, and I have no shortness in confidence that we'll achieve it.
Absolutely. I think you said a key word there. We've built the foundation. I know you guys built the foundation, the kind of core structure of the organization, and I think just building on top of that foundation that we've already got is, like you say, can only make us grow and grow fast and grow big and strong, because we've got that core foundation ready to go, and then we can only look to the future and find those new avenues that we can kind of reach out to. I think that's a good way to put that.
Definitely. Like Kennix, over the couple years that he's been here with the Quantum Jump, had to be like, hey, what about this? He's like, that's like years in the future. Why are you thinking about that? I want to have it now and not when it comes out. So Kennix has done a lot of stuff like that with me. Bob has done a lot of stuff like that with me. So we build on the foundation well in advance. Yeah. And when it comes to that, us three here are usually the top three who are working on these type of things. We get support and ideas from other people, but I would say it's probably us three who are really pushing ideas.
And to kind of expand on that foundation, because like you said, we may not be able to do it right now, but we need to do it now. Just having the foundation from the bare bones, medical, logistics, security. It's like, great, we have that. Now let's say, now we want to do hospitals. Okay, well, we'll set in place what we need to do the hospitals. And then once that portion of the game is realized, now we say, we want hospitals. What can we do? What can we not do? And then, we get to that point. And then from there, we're like, okay, now we want roving clinics. We want to fly our endeavors around. But having all these ambitious ideas and all these well thought out plans, even if we don't have the information for it, it allows us to have plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. And then once things come into the game, we can say, okay, plan A sucks. Plan B is possible. Plan C is most probable, and plan D would be great if we had this. So then we'll say, okay, plan D, plan A are out, but plan B and C, the possible and the most probable. And then we go from there and expand our understanding on those plans. So it always allows us to be a step ahead of whatever the game gives us, because we theorize, we're always assuming, we're always theorizing, and we're building different plans off of it. And all it takes, once that portion is released, is we look at it and then we lift and we shift. Like, there's no huge implementations, there's no huge meetings, we're not like, oh, okay, now this is released, what do we do? It's always, we have a plan, this is what's going to happen if we get this. This is what's going to happen if we don't get this. So the way that we come together and always plan and always, are just frothing at the mouth. It's those things that allow us to always stay ahead of the game and to always be inventing ways to do things that are not necessarily the most obvious. So, that foundation is very important, because from that foundation, you can build off of it. And you're not reinventing the wheel, you're just changing the way it looks. That's what makes us most effective with our planning processes.
Yeah, we definitely plan for it all. We think about it all. I've said it many times. Bob has said it a couple times on this podcast. We will push everything to the limit that we can think of, and then some. We're always trying to be at the top of our game, forefront. Like Kennix says, hey, this is coming out next week. All right, well, let's have a massive meeting so we figure out what we're doing. No, it's like, here's the bit of information you got. Cool, plan B. That's what we're going with. And then, this is how it all started. Originally Quantum Jump the idea was 4 endeavors, positioned at locations, And that was it. Then I learned that there's base building. So then we thought about where we wanted our home base, and we designed a couple variants of it and how we kind of want it to look with some ideas. And then that's progressed even further to where now we're looking at the ideas of partnering with other orgs to have quantum jump clinics on their bases. So that gives us a bigger branch out there, like, hey, here's the blueprints for this, build it. And then if anybody needs medical attention, we'll send it to you. It gives us a bigger branch, a bigger spread. Like, that's how we just keep adapting.
Yeah, I think we just, like you were saying, we have a good team, good theory crafting and future proofing team that can kind of look at what, like you said, what we have, the information that we get, and we just kind of go from there and come up with all sorts of plans and have those discussions long before we need to actually implement them. I think you guys said it best, where we just we've already got the plan. We're ready to roll. We can just jump into it, and we can figure it out right away. We've got the teams, we've got the leadership roles, we've got the members that can go run out there and do these things, and it just helps that we have those conversations way ahead of time. Well, Kennix, I appreciate you joining us on the podcast. We're excited to interview you being the first one that we're interviewing. I know we don't want to monopolize your time, so we appreciate you being on here.
All right, Bob, Spectre, thanks for having me on. It's been fun.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you, Kennix. So at the end of the interview, there is 2 bits of information that came out today, being Wednesday, April 3rd, with a roadmap roundup. And I think we should talk about that. And even though we had a 2-part, 3-hour discussion on 3.23, they're still giving us more.
Yeah.
So they did confirm the animals, the scorpions, the birds, and the maddox or whatever they're called. So, but that was already discussed on last week's episode, or 2 weeks episode, last fortnight. We talked about those. But the new thing that was added today, which I think is pretty cool because neither of us expected it, but with 3.23.x, so not the primary patch, but the secondary patch after, the Retaliator, cargo, and ship modules.
Yeah, so they added the torpedo and cargo bay to the Retaliator, the module itself. So this is pretty exciting. Modularity is, we knew it was on the horizon. We knew they were talking about it. We just had a lot of speculation of when it was coming out. I don't think anybody expected it to come out this soon. I thought mid-year to late year was my kind of speculation, just because I knew they had talked about the Retaliator was going to be the first modular ship that they were going to bring in. Obviously, this is the gold pass. The ship has been in the game for a long time, but they're doing that gold pass. They're adding the modularity. They're bringing in a couple modules, and it sounds like there are future modules as well. So this isn't the end of the Retaliator getting its updates. It's going to continue to date and get more functionality. But in my mind, this was the blocker. This was the necessary thing. I'm excited to get the Galaxy after this because that's the next thing on the horizon that will need that modularity. We'll use that modularity. So like I said, I was didn't know when, but I was kind of expecting it this year. I was definitely expecting it later this year. Did not expect it for 323.
This is big. Like, everyone's probably thinking, like, the Retaliator, why is it the Retaliator? Forgetting how big modularity is going to be. You have the Galaxy with its 3 current modules, and we have been confirmed a 4th base building module. It hasn't been for sale yet, but it has been confirmed by CIG. You have the Caterpillar that has modularity. And technically, correct me if I'm wrong, but the 600i was supposed to be a modular style ship too.
I guess I never heard about the 600i, but I knew the Carrack too was supposed to be cargo modules. Yeah, supposed to be able to swap out.
Yeah, so this is going to be a big game changer if this works well, because that means not only are we getting the Retaliator, but that's going to get some framework ready for the Galaxy, as well as open up development routes for additional modules for other ships, as well as adding modules to previously existing ships. Now, granted, the previous ships, such as the Carrack and the Caterpillar, will take a little bit longer, in my opinion, because they're going to have to redo the ships. As opposed to the Galaxy, which is not released yet, they just haven't worked on that section yet, so it's going to be an easy integration for it, as opposed to, like, now the Caterpillar, they're going to be like, okay, here's the sizing, here's how it's going to work. here's how the new piece is going to look. So they have to kind of redo some certain thing. So expect the Carrack and the Caterpillar at least to change up a little bit, and other ships that may have them, like different modules. Like it'd be really cool to get a drop troop one for the Retaliator. You just go in, opens up the bomb bay, and there's like 20 people that just pop out.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and like you were saying, Carrack is going to have a lot of design and gameplay elements that also aren't ready, so it's going to be waiting a while for some of those other blockers, like adding the drones in and that front shield that's supposed to come down over the.
Oh,
I mean, they really haven't talked about that in a while. So,
and that 3D printer.
Yeah, they've got that's going to be some sort of repair
Antennas.
3D printer. Yeah. Well, and then the scanning and all that stuff also has to come in. So that's going to be a big thing to update the Carrack with. So it's got a lot of gameplay elements. Like you say, the Caterpillar is a bigger ship, so they're going to have to figure out all those different aspects. So it's going to take a while to get all those. And they're also kind of focusing on different manufacturers each year, it sounds like. I mean, they said this was the year of RSI, so that's why the Polaris is one of the first capitals that is coming in, because they've been focusing. I know I said the word, dang it. But they've been focusing on RSI elements, and so I think they're kind of, it seems like they're going to keep doing that. They're going to focus on one manufacturer, so we'll see who they focus on next year, the year after that, and kind of build up that, go through the backlog and kind of update the ships in general and fill in the gaps of where we're kind of waiting for. But yeah, this modularity is, they said it was a major blocker of ships in general. So it's exciting that they've obviously figured it out. They've got, I mean, they talked about it. It was around October, maybe September, that they talked about it. They had that SCL where they talked about ships. And that was something they brought up then, because they were talking about they were joking about the whole sea where they were adding torpedo bays and stuff to it and could fire torpedoes from the arms of the whole sea, which obviously everybody wants to see and thought would be very cool if it happened. But that part is not likely to happen anytime soon, if it ever happens. But again, it was that major blocker for a lot of ships. And I think this is just gonna open up the floodgates. Hopefully, I mean, I'd like to see that it opens up a lot of fun things that they can do, and I think this touches on a lot of things, like the is it the Hawk that has the pod in the back for the bounty hunter?
Yeah.
So things like that, I see that as kind of being modular. So that would drop out the bay drop out the cargo pod in the back. I mean, that's kind of a module that they would have to put in. So it's going to fix things like that, kind of build towards things like that. And the bounty hunter stuff in general, I think that kind of plays in with that. All of the ships that have that kind of modular, smaller pieces of the ship that need to be modular. So I think this is a big this will open up a lot of gameplay, I think.
Yeah, and I definitely hope once they're done with RSI, I love the RSI ships. I used to not like them, but over the years, I've really become an RSI fan. I have a Polaris, and I have decided that I will be purchasing a Perseus. And I already have a Galaxy. But I want them to do Drake next, because out of the other larger capital ships out there, yes, I know everyone's like, oh, the Banu Merchantman. I don't like the Banu Merchantman, so I don't want it to come next. I want a Kraken. I think when you start to add more systems, like we're getting Pyro, and we're going to have Magnus and Nyx and Terra and all these other systems, what a better way than to do the fuel change, because the fuel does need to be changed out. Because right now every ship has a higher fuel capacity than it should. But to move those light fighters from Stanton to Pyro, they won't make it through the wormhole. So you're going to need a carrier. And what a better carrier than a Kraken? So I kind of want that to be the next big thing. And for people who don't know, and I don't know if I've mentioned this on the podcast before, at IE as well as at Cousin Crow's, there was a hologram of the Kraken. And what most people don't know is that when they had IE at Lorville, and they had that really big Kraken on display outside at Lorville Hangars, which I believe was 2018, 2019, one of those 2 years is when they did this. That was the whole exterior of the ship. And those holograms are that full-size Kraken just shrunk down. So next time you go look at that hologram, look closely at it. You can see it has significantly more details than any of the other holograms because it's a full ship, just shrunk.
Yeah. Well,
so that's what I kind of want next.
And one of the best indicators is that it's not in that kind of white box state. It's actually full color and like you say, full detail. Mm-hmm. So it makes me wonder.
You just have to do the interior.
Yeah, yeah. It makes me wonder if that is a Squadron 42 asset. Like, did they make the Kraken a long time ago because they needed it in Squadron 42?
I'd never thought about that, but probably. Maybe
literally
maybe
just
you run into like a pirate. That. Maybe like a pirate organization that you run into in one of the missions, and there's just a Kraken. You're probably never gonna go inside of it, but maybe it's just kind of there.
Right. Yeah. Maybe you land on top, but maybe you just fight it.
Maybe it just shows up and you do an air battle, and then it blows up or it leaves or whatever. Mm-hmm. Something like that. The only other manufacturer I could think of would be Misk. With the Odyssey, the whole D, the whole E.
The Expanse still needs to come in game.
The Expanse. The Expanse was the little one, yeah? The little
it's the
refining ship?
Yeah, the refiner.
Yeah. So those are some of the Endeavor as well as Misk. I'm going to call it right now. The Endeavor, and I've said this many times, the Endeavor is going to be huge. When you look at it in the Star Viewer, it's supposed to hold 2 Cutlass Reds side by side. I think we determined. Not even one fits in the hangar due to the size of the Endeavor now. It's going to get at least 2.5 to 3 times bigger. It's $350 now, and I can guarantee you when that work is done, you're looking at a $650, $700 ship for just the base. That doesn't include the modules. It's going to be a bigger price jump than the Carrack. So if you want to get a bigger ship later on down the road, like maybe you want a Polaris or a Pioneer or something like that, and you want to CCU to it, get yourself an Endeavor because it's going to go up big time.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I think if you're looking long term and you want to, I know some other people say this, to actually work your way down. So if you start with the Endeavor and think about all the gameplay aspects that you can do with the Endeavor and the crew that you can have with, whether you're with an org or just a large friend group, you can kind of use the Endeavor to kind of earn money and then buy all the other ships that you could even possibly want. So there is that kind of option too. If you're if you can hold off on buying a whole bunch of stuff, but you go for that kind of relatively cheap ship now, and then kind of grow into it as the game progresses. And then eventually when that ship comes out, then you'll have the largest ship in the game, probably. Well, not the largest ship in the game, but one of the largest ships in the game, but one of the most valuable ships in the game because it's going to have all those gameplay loops. I mean, you're literally going to be touching every gameplay loop depending on what module you have attached to the Endeavor. I mean, you're going to be doing farming, research, data, scanning, exploration, medical. I mean, you get to see all aspects of the game.
Literally everything. $1,000 gets you the Master Pack now, which is the Endeavor with every single module that it comes with. And modularity is coming. So the fact that Misk could be next is not terribly far off. Because we will have modularity at that point. But, the Endeavor's going to get big. But yeah, with $1,000, if you really want to get into it, maybe group together and have one person purchase it in your friends group, if you're that close of friends, and then you could all kind of like benefit from it in game. Like, hey, we've been growing hydroponics for a long time. We sold a bunch. Let me get some of that money so I can buy a ship that I want. Kind of like have that as your base of operations ship for a smaller, large friend group. And I say smaller, large because I'm thinking 6 to 10 people, which is a large friend group, but it's a small group. Where you guys probably won't benefit from like a Javelin or an Idris. You probably won't benefit too much for that with just that little amount of people. Especially if you're just trying to make money in the game.
Right.
Because you're not going to make a lot of money with those. So it's a good ship. Like I said, I'm predicting it's going to be, like I said, around 650, 700-ish area, at least, based on how much bigger it has. So the Master Pack, I'm probably going to place around 1,500 for the Master Pack once it's out, so an extra $500 on top. Because I don't think the modules are going to change much in price. Modules seem to be pretty cheap, but they will have to get bigger as well. So I'm going to say 1,500 for Master Pack. So it'll be worth it to do Master Pack.
Yeah. Well, and I think they expect a lot of people to buy the modules in game. So like you start out with one or a couple, and then kind of build up to having the full pack anyway. That way you can swap them out and go do different loops and stuff. So, I mean, there's also that option, but which is why I think that they won't change the module prices too much, like you were saying. But, yeah, I mean, they've been doing a lot with MISC. I mean, adding a whole division in Mirai. They've been building up that corporation in general with ships, so it wouldn't surprise me if they did a lot more coming up soon. And like we said, there's a lot of those gameplay loops that are coming online, and the modularity, and if they add more to refinery and engineering over the next year or so, there will be ships that will kind of benefit from that. I mean, mining is in a pretty good state, so things like the Odyssey can come in, and they'll have to get the kind of gas cloud stuff or whatever they're doing for that, but and some of that mining and refining and stuff. So yeah, I can definitely see those coming online, and them focusing on MISC next would definitely make sense. I liked your original idea.
Now that we're talking about it,
yeah.
Now that we're talking about it, I think MISC might be next.
Yeah,
I would like Drake to be next because I think it would be really cool to have a Kraken, especially with all these new systems coming on. But counter argument to that is, are we going to get another system next year? We're getting Pyro this year. More than likely Pyro this year.
Yeah.
Are we going to get Magnus or Nyx? Nyx would probably be the most common one, considering Levski is already pretty much built because it was already in game.
I remember they were talking about when that company came on board, that was one of the first things they were doing was working on the hospital in Levski when they were updating all the ones in Stanton. They were also working on the hospital in Levski. So I mean, they definitely worked on it. So, and it's only that one planetoid or asteroid anyway, so it's not a huge system. So that definitely could come along pretty fast.
So yeah, if we get that, it's okay. So two additional systems, so 3 total by the end of next year. So would the Kraken be viable at that point? Would be the question. Or let's say in the year next, we get the Kraken as well as the Magnus system and the Terra system. 2 additional systems in 1 year, and the carrier to move to those systems. That makes more logical sense for me now that we're talking about this and discussing it. I think I would like that more. And let's get some MISC ships in. Let's get the Odyssey in. Let's start working on the Endeavor. Probably not going to get it in next year, but let's start working on it. Let's start thinking about it. Let's get the whole B online. Get the whole D online. Get those 2 ships in. Don't worry about the whole E. Like the Expanse. We can get that going. And then since there's a small group of ships, and some of them are kind of copy and paste, like the holes. Let's go ahead and just get rid of Crusader, and let's just get the Genesis in as well. The Genesis and the E1, and let's get people transport. Because what a way to kind of honor early players who may have gone to Levski. Bob, I don't think you went to Levski, yeah?
I did not make it.
No, so...
It left pretty close to when I started, I guess.
Okay. So one of the big things from Levski, from the older players, and Quantum Jump Medical's first missions was Levski always broke. Levski, you could never spawn ships. It always broke down. You always get trapped there. But there's a way to get to the surface from the station, and people would pick you up and transport you to Port Olisar. That was the big thing, is grabbing people and moving them. So what a better way to kind of honor Levski than to give us the E1 and the Genesis and give us transportation missions, for NPCs. I think that'd be kind of cool. Really far-fetched, but it'd be kind of a good way to like honor like the people, because like that was a big thing. The Levski rescues were huge. I remember logging on and doing that for 6 hours straight the first day it happened. Just going to different servers, just grabbing as many people as I can.
Yeah, that would definitely be a cool way to kind of bring that system in. Like you say, if we're starting from Stanton and you bring in Nix and you have transport missions right away and taking other people there, that would be a good way to introduce it, because it seems like it was kind of a working mine and an asteroid. So you're taking workers there, you're taking people that need to get there for different reasons. So yeah, that'd be very cool if they could implement that.
That'd be really cool. Like I said, you got the two ships, you got the Genesis, big freight liner, like 747 style. Then you got the E1, nice little high class luxury private jet, for maybe like the vice president of the mine who could come in and like tell the workers that they're doing a horrible job and to work harder. However they want to do it, right? So I think that's what I want. Is I want those ships to come in and then give us the Kraken once you give us Terra and Magnus.
Yeah, that'd definitely be very cool if we can get that over the next couple of years.
So there is one more bit of information now that we're kind of done with the roadmap and all of our theory crafting. And this was a notification that came in only a couple hours, like I think 2 hours before we started the podcast. And you didn't even see it until I mentioned it to you. But in 3.23 for Arena Commander Pirate Swarm, the final wave is no longer at Idris or Hammerhead. It was a Hammerhead. No longer a Hammerhead. It is a Bengal carrier with an F8 fighter squadron support.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Yeah, that's nuts.
For those of you who don't know what the Bengal is, here's the Hammerhead, here's the Bengal. Like, it's a massive difference. It makes the Idris look like a Gladius. It is enormous. I think it has like size 12 guns on it or something like that. Like lots of size 12 guns. I think is the official sizing. It's huge.
Yeah.
And I remember they had the Bengal in for Invictus a couple years ago, and the big thing was trying to kill it. Everybody just kept shooting at it, trying to kill it. It was invincible at the time, or allegedly, because there was a group that claimed they killed it, but it just kind of disappeared, and we weren't sure if it quantum traveled away and got stuck, or if it actually did get destroyed, and there was no confirmation. But it's huge, and the fact that we get to fight that now is going to be pretty fun in Pirate Swarm, and a little weird because only 4 people versus a Bengal.
Yeah, that is very interesting. If you're just going to be focusing mostly on the fighters, or like you say, if you'll have to completely take it down, that'd be very interesting and tough.
Yeah,
that's going to be a tough mission.
Yeah, very tough. It might just kind of float around and shoot at you while you take out the F8s. And once you take out all the F8s, it leaves. Because I don't see any of the ships that are currently in game with 4 people taking out a Bengal. So take the highest DPS, which is the Inferno. Let's just give it infinite ammo, because why not? You ain't taking it down. No, it ain't happening. Not with 4 people. Maybe like 40 people, you might have a chance, but not 4 unless they increase it. That'd be kind of cool.
Well, and that kind of goes with what we were talking about before the podcast. Maybe they will be increasing it, and maybe there's a specific reason they will be increasing it, which is maybe they're bringing in the... I can
think of... Say it.
I don't know if I want to say.
Because there's 2 ships that are pretty much ready to go that we know about as of right now that can be entered in to counter a Bengal. And it's the Idris and the Polaris. Polaris with those, torpedoes, and the Idris with its railgun. I think if you have a couple of those, it could be pretty good. But the Idris railgun is not pilot controlled. It is secondary controlled, I think. And the Polaris is the same way. The missiles, I believe, are done through the missile bay, not the pilot. So you'll need 2 people.
Yeah, which, makes sense that somebody else would be in control of the armament. Obviously, disappointing for the pilot, but...
it's understandable.
Yeah.
I think if the Polaris had the option, or the Idris had the option to use its main armament from the pilot seat, I as a Polaris owner, would not like that. I as much as cool as it would be, I don't want to be able to control that because I feel it's a little too much power for the pilot. Like the pilot of a big frigate is the pilot the frigate, not fire the missiles. That's someone else's job. Same with the Idris. They line it up and the other person pulls the trigger.
Well, and that goes to specializations like we've talked about in the past. Like there should be people in specific roles. You should be focused on being at the helm, piloting the ship. You shouldn't be thinking about when I'm firing. That's somebody's entire job beside you. They're focusing on the missiles or the torpedoes or the railgun. That's their job. They're waiting for that opportunity. They're telling the pilot to line up and shoot. And that's how that works in the military now, on big ships. That's people have specialized jobs. They're not doing these multi-role kind of things that we like and are excited about. But like you say, those of us thinking about that multi-crew and multi-role are more excited about having that separated out, I think.
It'll be interesting to see where that goes and to see like if it's true that we get these big ships in Arena Commander to do against a Bengal, or how the Bengal is going to work. Because, like I said, I can't think of 4 individual ships doing anything to a Bengal at all. There's no ship out there.
Definitely not. And I think it goes, they talked about having engineering being part of Arena Commanders first, where you could try it out. So if they do put some of those bigger ships in, that gives people, and obviously if they have to increase the amount of people that can play it, but that gives people those different roles that they can take on and with those bigger ships. So there can be somebody doing all the engineering and the firing.
I just thought of something. This would be really cool because it would be kind of like an homage to the original Battlefront 2 Star Wars. This would be really cool. But what if you can fly your ship into the Bengal, get out of your ship, run over and disable their shields and engines because you can go in there, mess with their engineering, and then you can take it out.
Yeah, that would be very cool. Like you're doing those boarding missions and then allowing your cohorts to come in and take it out. That would be very cool if we could do that.
That would be pretty cool. Chances of that happening as good as a chance as the Polaris comes out tomorrow. So yeah, that's a lot of space there, Bob. That's a lot of space. But yeah, I'm excited to see how that works. I'm excited to see the Bengal again because it's been a few years.
Yeah, there's definitely some exciting things coming in 323 and some of those surprises that we keep getting that hopefully it's I keep using the word horizon, but hopefully it's very close to the horizon. Hopefully we're going to see 323 soon. I know they're doing all the testing right now and testing out all the different features that are coming in. So I think we're very well on track to get some of that stuff. So
yeah, and we do have somebody in our org who is Evocati, and they can talk about it. So they've been telling us like their experience about it, and they said there's a few bugs and a few shortcomings and a few issues that they need to flesh out, but it is an EPTU patch, so that's to be expected. But he said when it works, it looks great. It functions great. Everything's awesome. He doesn't like that they keep changing the controls on him, and he gets a little grumpy about that. But I can't wait to actually see it and actually play it and be in a whole new Star Citizen.
yeah, I mean, we've talked about that a lot on this podcast, how much of a difference it's going to be and how it's going to completely change the way that you interact with, you see, you experience Star Citizen. 323 is a major change. Like, I hope people realize how big of a change it's going to be. I mean, it's going to be slow at first to get used to and to kind of, and even for them to implement everything that they've talked about. But once we get all that stuff in, Star Citizen is going to be completely different than what we know of it even today. I mean, it's going to be majorly different.
Yeah, it's a whole new game, and I think people are really taking that kind of for granted. But yeah, it's think of this patch as literally Star Citizen 2, Star Citizen 2 Electric Boogaloo. You know, it's there's going to be a big difference. So prepare to redo your joysticks, prepare to redo any shortcuts and key bindings and changes. And, you know, we don't know if there's going to be an economy wipe, if there's going to be an inventory wipe, if there's going to be both. So we still don't know about any of that. Expect the worst. Expect everything to go, because there are economy changes, there are inventory changes happening in this patch. So expect everything to just be completely wiped, brand new, everything, whatever you have on your hangers, what you got. So just kind of expect that as my advice to you. And I think that's kind of like on a patch like this.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's such a big thing, and I mean, there's been all kinds of debate and all the different things that they're testing, but like you said, just have it in your mind that we're gonna get a wipe. It's gonna happen. Just plan for that. I think don't think, oh well, what if I get to keep this, or what if I get to keep that? Don't, just get that out of your mind. If that happens, it's a happy accident or a happy experience, but just think that things are going to get wiped and we're going to start from scratch. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I think a lot of people need that. I think with a lot of the testing lately, a lot of people have gained a lot of money, or into the trillions. I've heard some people talking about. So, I mean, it's something that needs to happen, and it will be good for the community in general. I think is to get a wipe and start from a clean slate and get people back into certain loops that they were in before, trying out new things, trying out the old things, and seeing how they play into the new system. I think is kind of going to be important for the future, and especially for getting into 323 and figuring out how we go forward, how we where we want to kind of focus, where people want to spend their time. I think it's going to change the way everybody does everything. So people are going to find new places to play in the sandbox that we call Star Citizen.
But you said it's needed. If it doesn't happen 323, it's going to happen this year anyways, with Pyro or some other patch. You know, like, especially if they add Pyro, because they're doing the server meshing and everything. So it's probably best just to wipe the server rather than to duplicate everything. So somewhere you're going to get a wipe. Well, I think that's it for roadmap stuff. Seems like we have a roadmap update every time we do the podcast, which so happens that we do it right when there's a roadmap update. So move on to the final segment.
I think so.
All right. So as normal, we always spin a wheel that has every single ship in the game, even ones that you can't purchase yet. As you saw last week, we had the Vandul ship that was not even concepted, and very little information about it. and then we rate the ship, and we rate it on our personal opinions on how we would use the ship, how the org would use the ship. If we give it a low rating, doesn't mean it's horrible. If we give it a high rating, doesn't mean it's the best ship in the game. It's just our personal opinions on me and how I see it as the org, and how Bob and how he sees it for the org. So go ahead and give it a spin and let's see what we got. Wow, really? That's hilarious. So the RSI Bengal.
Oh my gosh.
We got the Bengal. So a little bit bigger than a snub.
Just a tiny bit.
All right, so let's go ahead and pull up what we have here. It is 1,000 meters in length. It has a crew of 755. 755.
Gosh.
Oh my god.
It's funny because when we were talking about it earlier, I was thinking, and like you said, it was there during IAE or Invictus. Was it
Invictus?
Invictus. Mm-hmm. It was as big or bigger than Port Olisar, if you think about that, when it was flying around, because it would go to all the stations. And then the other funny thing that I think about it is it has a tram system inside of it. That's how big this ship is. It has its own tram. Think about the New Babbage and Area 18 have trams. This ship is so big that it has its own tram system.
That's crazy to just like comprehend. Like I was looking to see if like New Babbage had like a population number, so we can see how many New Babbages it takes to crew a Bengal. So that's going to be the question. How many New Babbages does it take to crew a Bengal? Unfortunately, there is no data entry for that, surprisingly. So we can't say how many New Babbages do you think it would take to... It's such a weird thing to say.
Yeah.
I'm going to say 3 New Babbages. People who live there.
Definitely multiples of New Babbage.
So our plant has 10 size 4 power plants. That is 10 power plants equal to the size of the 890 jump. 10 size 4 coolers. Now how many shield generators do you think there are, Bob?
10, maybe.
1 size 4. 1 size 4 shield generator on the wiki page, at least. That's where I'm getting this information from.
Yeah.
Which means it has less shields than the 890 jump, because the 890 jump has 2 size 4s.
I mean, I guess maybe it just has so much armor that it doesn't. Not that it doesn't need shields, but it can just tank all of it, I guess, maybe.
A little weird. Here's the actual length. The actual length is 990 meters.
Oh.
So 10 meters short. Oh no, And the minimum crew is 476. So minimum 476, maximum 755.
It's still so many people.
It's a lot. Weaponry has 1 size 12 remote main turret. And this has 4 size 12 ship busters. That is the actual name of the weapon, which is a 130 millimeter ship buster railgun, which shoots the 130 millimeter slug out of a railgun. That's terrifying.
I can't wait to see that compared to the Idris. You can just know somebody's going to fly right up to it with the Idris and compare the railguns.
Well, this has 4 of them. So Idris only has 1. It has 12 size 6 remote missile turrets, and each one of those has 12 size 6 beehive missile launchers, 22 size 9 manned turrets, which have 44 times size 8 ballistic cannons, 12 size 6 phalanx turrets, which is 12 size 6 ballistic Gatlings. So basically almost Infernos. And 38 size 8 remote AA turrets with 76 size 7 ballistic cannons. Holy fuck.
I feel like that's where most of your crew is going, is just being in turrets.
Yeah. Now, most of these are remote, and what we know about remote turrets is they can be AI bladed. I don't want to go against this thing, even with a couple entrances.
Yeah, this is not going to be fun to fight against, no matter what, who's in charge of it.
Yeah, no, not at all. It's oh wait, hold on. I found an updated shield system on the defenses. So they have 36.4 inch, so that's 3 feet of Icarus armor plating. 3 feet of just armor plating on the ship. 14 Phoenix class shield generators. And the Phoenix classes, I believe, are size 4s. And 6 HT2000 burst shield generators. Back up 2 4, 2 mid, 2 aft. So once your 14 Phoenix class go down, these burst ones will just pop up real quick and give it a little bit of extra time so your 14 can recharge quickly. If you get through those 6, you still got 36 inches of armor plating to go through.
When I was thinking about the sizes of the cannons and the turrets and stuff, that'll probably change to, since we had that update where everything's supposed to be the same size as whatever the size of your mount is. So those will all get upgraded. So that size 9 turrets and ballistic cannons, the ballistic cannons will get upgraded to size 9 as well instead of size 8. So
yeah. Yeah, no thank you.
It's important to think about that this is supposed to be an end game ship. This is not something that anybody can own. This is going to be one of those large scale items that orgs are fighting over. So this is something that they've said anyway. I mean, we'll see how, when it comes into the game, how this actually works. But they've said in the past that you will be able to find them in the universe somewhere. I don't know if they said if they were crashed. It sounded like they said that it would be like crashed on a planet or crashed in space, and you would have to repair it.
You gotta fix them,
get it going again. And this is going to be one of those like end game raid, like keep away from the other team kind of things. And you're going to have your org guarding this thing at all times. Like if you want to keep it, you have to have 400 some people on board this thing at all times, either moving it away from people or keeping it hidden or just keeping it going against other orgs, because they are going to be trying to take this. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that they're going to be going after this thing constantly. So it's going to be a huge prize for orgs, and especially the large orgs, because this is not a small org thing. Or it's a multi-org thing. That could be one of those things where alliances come into play. And talking about that foundation, we have a lot of alliances in place and are working with a lot of orgs. So this may be something where we back up other orgs if they take over the Bengal, or I think they said 4 maybe Bengals in the verse total.
I think it was
if
4.
I remember.
4 total.
Yeah. So a limited supply, a large amount of orgs are going to want to at least try this thing out and take it over. So it'll be very interesting to see when it comes into the verse and when we get to play around with it, when these orgs are going to have these large scale battles over this one ship.
So getting into the trivia, there's a couple points here. Traditionally, the Bengal class carriers are named after big cats, so it makes sense.
Sure.
The Bengal is the first capital ship shown in Star Citizen back when the original Kickstarter campaign. 7 artists on board for its construction and development since the time of R&D. I'm going to skip these next 2 because they're pretty big, and so I'm going to go to the other ones and save these ones for last. The interior is around 3 or 4 times the size of a Battlefield 4 map. The Bengal was teased on May 1st, 2021 on the Star Citizen Twitter with an image of a Bengal cat inside of a backpack carrier. The ship then appeared during the 2951 Invictus launch week as part of the UAE Navy fleet flying around the Stanton system. In internal playtesting, players got frustrated traversing the ship. Elevators and subdeck monorail were added as a solution. They run from one side of the flight deck to the other and can be used to transport cargo and personnel. The Bengal carrier is sometimes nicknamed the Bagel carrier by the community. And the Bengal was also a class of carrier and wing commander, which is another game by Chris Roberts. So I saved these last 2 ones because an Idris can fit inside of the hangar of a Bengal carrier.
Oh my God.
Think about that for a second. It can fit inside of the carrier. But that's not as crazy as the second one. The main turret of the Bengal, which was the railguns, the slugs, is slightly smaller than the entire Idris ship. So you thought the Idris was big with its Cutlass black size gun. Bengal has Idris size gun.
God. I can't even comprehend the scale of this thing.
We saw it in game. We flew next to it.
Yeah.
But when you read the stats, you're like, it was that big?
Yeah.
Like, I remember it being big, but holy moly.
Right. Yeah. Dang. Yeah, that's crazy. I wouldn't have guessed all these. Like, the comparisons really are interesting to hear because, yeah, like you say, you didn't really get that extreme scale that we're hearing right now. Like, it was big, but yeah, that's crazy to hear.
Because like we only had to compare to like a Carrack, which is like the biggest ship that we had, or A90. Like, oh yeah, it's pretty big. But when you think of the gun is as big as the Idris, and the Idris can also fit in the hangar, that's wow.
Yeah, that's crazy. One thing I was thinking about and remembering that the Bengal video is actually the one that made me excited for Star Citizen. There was a video where they showed like a whole bunch of ships coming out of it, the hangar bay opening up and coming out the front of it, and that's the one that got me excited. I knew obviously that it would be a crazy amount or a crazy ability if you could own the thing, but just to like be on it and fly on it or be a part of an org or a group that was on it just got me really excited about the game. And so that was the video that actually made me want to buy into Star Citizen, was seeing the Bengal video. I didn't know it was the Bengal at the time. I just saw, oh, that's really cool, a space carrier. And so I just that's the one that got me into Star Citizen, to be honest. I had heard about and followed or knew about Star Citizen the whole time, but that's the video that made me buy in.
That's what did it.
Yeah. Yep.
So what Bob doesn't know is that video is when the ships are coming out of the Bengal, it's actually, they're coming out of the Idris, and the Idris is right behind them. Those are Idrises flying out at the front, Bob.
Yeah, there you go. You couldn't tell scale itself.
But yeah, now you know the scale. They're all Idrises. We got definitely a ship, not a snub. That's for sure. In fact, the snub is an Idris for this ship. All right, let's start with personal ratings. Because I'll never own one, because even if they gave us the opportunity to buy it, I can't afford it. But now knowing the scale and the fact that we're going to be able to fight these in Arena Commander, we're doing out of 100 for our scalings, right? Is that what we've been doing? I can't remember if we do it out of 10 or 100. What's it out of 100?
10 is what we've been doing.
Is it 10? Okay, we'll do 10.
Yeah.
Give it an 8 for personal. Yeah, give it an 8 too.
I mean, I think, like you said, not being able to, or never really being able to own it, or thinking about owning it, does take it down a little bit, just because it's so massive and huge, and just thinking about it is beyond me. But like I said, it was the one that got me into it, so I do think I have to go with a 9 for personal, just because of what it kind of represents in the game. Like, it's the end-all, be-all of ships in this game. I mean, there are other ships that are as big or bigger, if I remember right. I think the Vanduul.
The Vanduul, like, super carrier.
Kingslayer, or whatever it was called. I can't remember.
Yeah, Kingslayer. Mm-hmm.
I think is a little bit bigger, but this is the biggest one we're going to be able to see and take part in and fly. So yeah, I think I got to give it a 9, just because, like I said, it was the one that got me excited, thinking about that multi-crew and that like on a massive scale, multi-crew.
You're a little bit of a massive scale with 700 people in your crew deck. So org-wise, I'm gonna rate this as if, like, the game's out, and Quantum Jump has more people than we have now. Even if we had 1,000 people in the org, I'm just gonna put that in there, like 1,000 people in Quantum Jump. Everyone's super active. Everyone plays. I'm gonna give it a 2 for org use, mainly because it's cool. It's still just a bit much for Quantum Jump solo. Now, granted, if this was something, when the game releases, if our partners from ABES or the coalition, or a group of people, we all came together, we conjointly owned it as a base of operations for all these orgs, I would say probably like a 9. But just something that for Quantum Jump, it's got to be down. It's got to be way, way, way down near the bottom. Just no use for it. Too big, too much to handle. It's not for one org.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I was thinking the opposite, and had that same caveat that if you can take it as an alliance, as in multiple orgs, I think it would be awesome if there were 200 QJM members that were only doing covering the medical side of it and supporting and doing those support roles for those other organizations. I think would be like, that's, like you say, 8 or 9 up there, like real high. But I agree with you. As a solo org, there's no real reason we would ever need to take the Bengal. Like, there's nothing that really we would be able to use it for support wise, because that really is our role, is to support other players, other orgs, and just taking over something so big and something so primarily offensive focused really would serve us no purpose. So I agree. I'd probably put it even lower. I'd probably put it at a 1 for just Quantum Jump.
Really cool. I think we learned a lot about the Bengal, more than I think we ever planned to learn about the Bengal. When it comes out and I can walk on it, I'll be excited. I'll definitely take a tour of it. Spend 6 hours touring the Bengal. But yeah, just not a ship that I would ever be able to feasibly own or even comprehend affording. You want to buy this, you got to sell your house, basically. Probably be like a $20,000 ship or something.
At least I was thinking the same as the Legatus pack, but
I think if they added the Bengal to purchase and you bought the Legalis pack, it comes with it.
No.
$100,000 Legalis pack comes with the Bengal and every other ship.
You have to buy the Legatus pack just to get access to buy the Bengal.
To get access to the Bengal, you have to put another $50,000. Damn you, Roberts. Suckered me out of my money again.
I think that was a good coverage. It's fun talking about something so big. I definitely agree with you. It's not something really realistic, but it is one of those like end game, end goal, MMO raid type things, and one of those things that keeps orgs interested, because they're going to be fighting over it all the time. It's a really cool ship, but like you said, just not for not for an individual, definitely. And even for a medium large org, you have to be one of the biggest orgs in the game to be able to kind of maintain and keep this thing going and keep it away from other orgs. So it's definitely not something.
And even then,
yeah, it's definitely not something that's attainable in general. I mean, it'll be fun to see in game if we ever get to see it, and it'll be interesting to see it in Arena Commander. I'm excited for that part, but yeah, definitely not something that focus our efforts to get towards.
Well, I foresee with the Bengals, I just thought of it now, is this 4, right? When all 4 of them are all operational, up and going, I think we're going to see 4 new orgs arise from this. You know, like they're going to name their Bengals, they're going to have their Bengals, and it's going to be the whole verse is split into these 4 teams, basically, and they all rally behind, you know, this Bengal, or rally behind that Bengal. Like all the pirates are rally behind this Bengal, all the super lawful people around this Bengal, all the support people on that one, and all the security on this one. You know, they're gonna have like 4 different teams, kind of just shuffling that power around, and I think that would be something that we're going to see. With ships like this.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Well, and I can also see it being that impetus. I mean, we've talked about being the support for when our alliance goes to war, and I can see that being one of those things where the Bengal is the end goal for, like, we're staging up, we're going to attack it, like not us, but our alliance is going to attack it, and this is going to be, like you say, one of those things where it's multi-orgs all coming together to have this one goal, and that's going to be what those 4 Bengals are going to be, to take it back from somebody or take it from one of those other alliances. But then, like you say, then people will kind of flock around, and it'll be kind of the main carrier base for a certain sector alliance, and then everything else will go off of those 4 Bengals.
Yeah, I definitely see 2 of them fighting constantly, one owned by pirates, one owned by lawful. Probably one down at the Vandal lines doing its thing, you know, and the other one's probably just going to be owned by that one guy who just miraculously did it himself. And he's just kind of sitting there like, I get a Bengal and you don't, you know, he's just going to be a solo guy for some reason.
And he took it in a medical gown.
Oh God, is it Papa Freedom? It's going to be Papa Freedom. It's Papa Freedom. He's just going to have a Bengal. So I think that's it on the Bengal, man. Unless you got something else you want to add?
Nope, I think we covered it pretty well.
I think we covered it more than any other one has.
Yeah, so that was a good podcast episode. It was nice to have Kennix on, and then nice to talk about those. There's always some release notes, release things that happen right before we record podcasts, so we have to talk about all that stuff, and then bringing up the Bengal and talking about that. Like you said, we go from Snubs, the smallest ships in the game, to one of the largest ships in the game. It's kind of funny how that works out. This was a good episode, and I will see you on the next one.
Have a good one, everyone.